summer family activities and on children's meals bought in restaurants. That will save families some money if businesses pass on the cost, and we do hope and expect they will. £20 off a trip to the theme park, £2 off a kids' meal, £1 or £2 off taking your kids to the cinema, depending on how many kids you've got.
Right.
And we're not saying, and I'm not coming on your programme this morning and saying that this is the silver bullet for the cost of living crisis, but we have looked across the board in a whole range of ways at what steps can we take to help people, given the fact that we have had challenges with the cost of living for a long time in the UK, and in particular challenges at the moment with the impact of the Iran conflict.
Can you give us an idea of some of the theme parks involved, Minister?
So I know that Merlin Entertainments, for example, which owns and runs many of the theme parks in the UK, have said that they are going to be passing on these savings. I believe the Chancellor's doing some interviews from one of their attractions at Warwick Castle today. OK.
They also include Legoland, Alton Towers and Peppa Pig World. Do you know how much it costs to take a family of 4 to Peppa Pig World?
So I haven't yet been to Peppa Pig World. I do have a 2-year-old, and maybe at some point I'll take him to Peppa Pig World. But I do know that going out to the theme park, for example, isn't cheap.
No.
And I grew up in a family where we didn't have much money at all growing up as kids, but my mum would save up for summer holidays, and often we would manage to get in a big trip. Maybe it'd be to a theme park or the local zoo. The Cotswold Wildlife Park was the one round the corner from us in West Oxfordshire where I grew up.
Right.
And mums and dads across the country work hard, contributing, and this change should help. And some families may not choose to go to a theme park, might be too far away, might, be challenging financially, but they might want to take their kids to see Toy Story this summer, and we'll take money off that at the cinema. They might want to take them, if they live in my constituency, to some of the local farms that you can go and visit, for example. So, and if our businesses are passing on the cost, then those smaller everyday activities will be cheaper.
So you don't know the cost of going to Peppa Pig World for a family of 4?
No, and you've caught me out on that one, Nick.
Do you not think you should have done, really, if you're selling this today? Do you think you should have known?
No.
You don't think it's an idea to tell my listeners how much it costs and what the saving is that your government's bringing about? You don't think that's a key issue?
Peppa Pig World, Nick, I think, I'm...
All right, but you're saving a lot of money. 216 prior to the government intervention. It now comes down to 164, so that's a chunky saving. How much is it to take a child to see Toy Story this afternoon to the cinema?
I think a kids ticket in the cinema, something like £5, £6, £7. Adult kids more expensive. Adult prices more expensive, and it will take.
Well, if I were to take my grandchildren to the Odeon in Leicester Square, it's £11 for a child.
Oh, great! And then if that is the price that the company is putting out,
but you didn't know the price of a child's ticket, Minister. You come on saying that there will be these savings. What age do you qualify for a child's ticket? When does that end? Hold
off, Nick. You have given me the price at one of the most expensive in-demand cinemas in the country today.
I've done next door. You mentioned Toy Story, not me.
If you go across the whole country, ticket prices for cinemas will vary significantly compared to the price.
When does the child age rate stop, Minister?
The point is, on average, if you look at typical prices, someone could save £20 on a theme park, £2 on going to a soft play, £2 on a meal out, and that is a welcome saving for families if businesses pass it on.
Yes.
I think it's the right step that the Chancellor's taken to look across the board at what are the ways that we can help families. This isn't the only thing we're doing. We've decided to...
well, what are the savings as regards... I understand food is food. Is there food savings as well?
Yeah, let me just say just a bit more broadly about the activity the government's taking, and then I'm happy to come on to food savings. Yeah. We have also frozen fuel duty. We've extended the freeze for the whole year. That will save families hundreds of pounds to the decision that we've made to freeze fuel duty in this Parliament, rather than the plans that we inherited from the Conservatives, which would have had fuel duty go up and up and up.
Right.
We have cut fuel duty by a third on red diesel to help farmers. We have increased the mileage allowances for workers. This is a massive change. People that drive for work have got 45p per mile in terms of their mileage allowance rate since 2011, been unchanged since then. The Chancellor heard the representations from care workers and their representatives in the union movement and others, and has increased that to 55p. GDP. That will save a driver driving 6,000 miles over £100 a year.
And just lastly, what is? I understand there's help as well for food prices. Is that right? Some restaurant chains are also providing help. Is that correct?
Yes.
What does that mean? What are the savings there?
Yes, the VAT discount there, the 20 to 5%, also applies to kids' meals bought in restaurants. We aren't asking restaurants to do age verification on the age of those who are buying the meals.
Right.
The items on the menus that are classed as kids' meals, the VAT reduction will apply to them. OK,
last couple of matters. I don't know whether you were in the House yesterday, but I know someone who was, and that was Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservatives, and she used language, and I quote, such as spiteful class warrior towards one of your senior colleagues. How appropriate or otherwise is that sort of language in your view?
Yeah, so I didn't make it into the Commons yesterday. I was busy working away in the Treasury, but I did see some of the clips online last night. I think sometimes it can be a bit unbecoming of politicians to launch quite sort of personal and direct attacks like that in the way that Kemi Badenoch did across members of the Cabinet. But, politics is...
contact sport.
Tough, yeah, contact sport. I personally wouldn't have behaved in the way that Kemi Badenoch does. Sometimes I think it doesn't come across as particularly prime ministerial. Later in the day, I was in the House of Commons bringing forward some of the measures that we're doing to support families on the cost of living. I stood up, I presented my bill, the Conservative stood up and asked me a whole range of tough, probing questions. I responded and we had a cordial back and forward in the House of Commons, debating and challenging the issues of the day. And I think sometimes Prime Minister's questions can bring out the worst in people.
You and your colleagues were at work, as you'll be aware. Some teachers were not, as it's decided that schools have to close. We understand why, but we're going to have a certain degree of preparedness. How concerned are you? I mean, your little chap won't be attending school for a few years, but it's very difficult if parents are suddenly told, well, you need to take your child or children home at 1:30. What action needs to be taken, do you think?
Yeah, this is difficult, and I'm sure there'll be parents with kids the same age as my son who have a similar situation with nursery and having to find out that they need to get home to pick up their children. We need to make sure that we're investing in the buildings in our schools. That's something the government is doing. We've increased our capital budgets.
But I think we need aircon, respectfully, Minister, don't we?
Well, that's what I mean in terms of buildings and the physical infrastructure that we have in our schools to make them more prepared for a warmer world. I hope that as many schools as possible are doing what they can.
And do you agree with an idea of a maximum workplace temperature to be set by the government?
Well, that's up to individual employers. I think, for example, if you work, I don't know, manufacturing steel, I'm not sure a maximum workplace temperature that shut down Britain's steel plants would be a good idea, for example. So I think it's for individual employers to think through what's appropriate, what they can do to help their employees managing this tough heat, including government ministers. Here I am with my suit jacket on, but it's not.
You are, and your tie.
It is
fully done up, I must report, and I'm not wearing a tie, and you are, so credit to you.
Yeah, come on, Nick.
But you're a younger man than I. Finally, you're Exchequer Secretary of the Treasury. There's so much speculation and excitement about how it might be moving into number 11. Who would you like to see in there?
Well, Rachel Reeves has been my boss now for 9 months in the Treasury. I was appointed in September last year, and I have seen how hard she works as Chancellor. It's a difficult job, particularly when you're making progress, like we've been doing in terms of getting government borrowing down, and then international conflicts come and buffet the UK economy. She's made good progress domestically and internationally, but I'm not going to play fantasy cabinet with you. It is decision for the incoming Prime Minister, who I expect will be Andy Burnham.
All right. Good luck raising your little chap. Thank you very much indeed, Dan Tomlinson, Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury, taking us through those summer savings. And you can read more about that from Sir Keir Starmer on the LBC app today. 1 minute after 8, LBC News Headlines. Dominic Ellis.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and...
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom, the Met Office is warning that yesterday's UK record temperature for June could again be beaten today. Gosport in Hampshire saw a high of 36.1 Celsius, passing a record set in 1976. The heatwave has forced hundreds of schools to close, prompting fears that some pupils may be missing vital lesson time. Climate adaptation and resilience expert Anna Besic has told Nick this morning social infrastructure desperately needs upgrading.
We need to move from responding when extreme heat events happen to actually increasing preparedness and building our resilience to these events. So we need to see more leadership at all levels. Heat has been ignored for too long as a challenge. I think it's really important that we increase the resilience of all of our buildings, our schools, our hospitals, our homes, so that they are able to cope better when we have these really hot temperatures. So we need action to retrofit and alter our buildings so they're better able to cope with heat risk.
A red warning for extreme heat covering much of southern England, parts of the Midlands and southeastern Wales remains in place until midnight. At least 32 people have died and more than 700 others injured after two strong earthquakes in Venezuela. A state of emergency has been declared after the quakes hit the capital Caracas overnight. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has backed Andy Burnham to replace Sir Keir Starmer, despite reports that she may be replaced in his potential cabinet. Miss Reeves has refused to comment on the speculation, saying that she won't preempt decisions of the future Prime Minister. A temporary VAT cut to reduce prices at family attractions has come into effect this morning. The measures will cut the cost of trips throughout the summer to ease the impact of the cost of living. The Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury, Dan Tomlinson, has just outlined to Nick what support is available.
£20 off a trip to the theme park, £2 off a kids' meal, £1 or £2 off taking your kids to the cinema.
Right.
And I'm not coming on your programme this morning and saying that this is the silver bullet, but we have looked across the board at what steps can we take to help people, given the fact that we have had challenges with the cost of living for a long time in the UK, and in particular challenges at the moment with the impact of the Iran conflict.
Sir Keir Starmer has told LBC the Great British Summer Savings Initiative is proof that he is backing working families. You can read his exclusive comment piece on the LBC app. And Scotland were beaten 3-0 by Brazil in their final World Cup group match in Miami overnight. They now face an anxious wait to see if they're one of the 8 best third-placed finishers. In the city, the FTSE 100's just reopened at 10,461. It closed up 32 yesterday. The pound buys $1.31 and €1.15. LBC weather, sunny and hot for many. Outbreaks of rain in the far northwest later with a chance of thunderstorms by tonight. A high of 38 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Dominic Ellis.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Good morning, 5 minutes after 8, Thursday, June the 25th. Putting the bad in Badenoch, it almost works. Kemi Badenoch on the warpath with Bridget Phillipson. Handbags at noon, or just afternoon, in a clash and language that didn't really thrill the Speaker of the House of Commons. How appropriate is it? We'll replay it and then, of course, most importantly, take your views. Also your views on the so-called Ockenden inquiry. The men who just wouldn't listen. By the way, most of the men, there are a couple of women, but mostly male bosses ignoring women's warnings. 500 mothers and babies died or were harmed. I mentioned the chair of the View, Donna Ockenden.
We've heard the most awful accounts of the deceased not being stored with dignity, mothers and fathers who've said we were just left to sink or swim.
Following the sentencing of the disgraced former SNP boss Peter Murrell and, of course, his estranged wife Nicola Sturgeon, who remembered this about a necklace.
Peter said to me, "I've got a surprise for you. I saw you admiring this pendant," and gave me it. Sorry. I loved that necklace.
The whistleblowers now are starting to make more details known, and we'll have an exclusive report for you on that. We will come back to It's Hot in the City. It's across the whole of the country. We're not quite at the roaring 40s. We might get there possibly today or possibly tomorrow. So what changes needs to be made to the infrastructure of the country? And with a new man seemingly destined on his way to cross the threshold of number 10, what do we think of... The North, as Andy Burnham signals he will move some parts of number 10 away and into the North. Everything needs to pass the Makerfield test, he told us last week, whatever that means. And he wants the economy to be Manchesterised. How do you view the North and Northerners?
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Having been in and around newsrooms for all of my working life, I like it when it gets a bit spiky or a bit testy. It's all I've really been used to for most of my career. But what about the politicians, those who supposedly we elect to protect us, to be our lawmakers? Well, she was pulling no punches yesterday at Prime Minister's Questions. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch, and in her sights, just across the chamber, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson.
Hands up if you think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job, Mr. Speaker. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job. Someone did. Just for those who raised their hands, the two people who raised their hands, yesterday a poll found that 0% of teachers think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. 0%. She taxed private schools to pay for more teachers, but the number of teachers has gone down. Yeah. It turns out appointing a spiteful class warrior as Education Secretary was a disaster.
Howls of anguish at use of the language spiteful class warrior. By the way, we have fact-checked, to use that modern idiom, and the number of teachers has gone down. She is right. Subsequently, speaking with my LBC colleague Andrew Marr last night, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson said,
if being a spiteful class warrior means improving the lives of children across our country, if that means lifting 500,000 children out of poverty, rolling out free breakfast clubs, more apprenticeship starts for young people, then I will proudly wear that badge. In fact, I'm going to go and get myself a T-shirt saying spiteful class warrior. It's just a shame I won't be able to wear it in the Commons chamber because you're not allowed to wear slogans in there.
There's full comment in today's Daily Mail by Quentin Letts. He's the parliamentary sketch writer for the Mail. The headline, she's savage, scary Bridget as a spiteful class warrior, then turned on the rest of the toe rags. Quentin Letts joins me now. Well, Kemi certainly came steaming in, bowling some bouncers from the gasworks end, but if the late, great Sir Dickie Bird was the role of Lindsay Hoyle, I think a word might have been taken. How do you think the Speaker viewed it, Quentin? Good morning.
Well, the Speaker, good morning, Niccolo.
Yes, you've done your research. Well done.
We had an extreme heat event in the House of Commons yesterday. The weather forecasters will have noticed a plume of crossness over the Commons, and the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, after a bit of prompting, I think, from the Labour benches, who are all absolutely aghast at this claim of a spiteful class warrior, Sir Lindsay rose and said perhaps language could be moderated a bit because, we all wanted to be nice to each other. Trouble is about Bridget Phillipson is that for some time, the reason I call her Scary Bridget is that she is a formidably severe operator who dishes it out like mad. And if you dish it out, you should be able to take it. But no, she was the neck clutching on the Labour front bench was magnificent when Kemi Badenoch made this remark. And 4 women were sitting in a row, one of them being Bridget. And they all opened their beaks and started squawking as one at Kemi. So it was a tremendously sort of cartoonish scene. And the consequence of it immediately was that after PMQs, there was a contretemps behind the Speaker's chair when 2 cabinet ministers, Bridget Phillipson and Liz Kendall, confronted Kemi Badenoch. This was after the main event. And they told her off for using beastly language. And Kemi Badenoch, I mean, I didn't see this contretemps, but one heard about it. Kemi Badenoch stuck to her guns and said, I'm going to keep on calling you spiteful because you have mucked things up for our children.
To misquote the great late Brian Hanrahan, you've seen them come and you've seen them go. Kemi Badenoch is really hitting her stride now, isn't she, Quentin?
She seems to be on terrific form. Whether or not it actually transfers into votes, I don't know. I mean, the Conservatives won an Aberdeen South by-election last week pretty well, but they also lost their deposit in Makerfield. So I think it's a patchy picture electorally for them. But as far as parliamentary performances go, Kemi Badenoch is steaming away at the moment. And it remains to be seen how she'll get on with Andy Burnham. Yesterday she had a good line about him being just a pair of eyelashes and a black T-shirt. We'll have to see. And Andy Burnham's out of practice a bit in terms of Parliament. So he may find that he gets 1 or 2 balls flying near his box.
Finally, the last, 3 or 4 innings for Sir Keir Starmer to face. Probably, I would have thought 3, 4 more to go, whatever it might be. What sort of figure did he cut yesterday as he strode to the crease, Quentin?
Well, he didn't stride, really. He sort of ambled in, blew in into the chamber, looking as though he was rather expecting to be treated softly, because he's resigned, done the decent thing, even blubbed a bit in Downing Street when he was resigning. And Kemi Badenoch didn't really go for him, but what she did do, she went for the cabinet, because there's been a tremendous fight for the lifeboats, and they are tussling away the cabinet. It's rather unseemly, as they're all looking to survive and sucking up to Burnham like mad. And so that's what Badenoch is really concentrating on now. Sir Keir, I'm afraid, is an afterthought. He's an au revoir. He's yesterday's dinner, and the next couple of weeks he's going to be very much a spare part, and everyone really just concentrating on Burnham now.
Read all about it in today's Daily Mail. Quentin, thank you. Quentin Letts is a parliamentary sketch writer, 13 after 8. Let's come back to that language. Quentin's saying it's justified, saying that this particular politician can dish it out, so you have to take it back. Let's bring to the conversation Paul Novak, who's General Secretary of the TUC, the Trades Union Congress, joining me now. Good to see you, Paul. Trust all is well in your world. Language such as this, some of the people you represent could certainly face disciplinary action, if not losing their job, speaking like that. How appropriate is it? Morning to you.
Absolutely, Nick. Good morning to you. I take this with a pinch of salt. You've got to ask yourself why Kemi's done this, and clearly it's for social media clicks and to make sure that people are having conversations about it this morning. It's in our newspapers, and as Quentin's just said, maybe that attention is needed because the Tories scored 2.2% in that Makerfield by-election vote. I'm less concerned about maybe the language yesterday. I mean, a few weeks ago, Kemi Badenoch did liken Bridget Phillipson to a Gestapo officer, and I think that's much more problematic. So it's not the sort of language I'd use, but I mean, as I say, take it with a pinch of salt. It's there to, get a little bit of social media clickbait, and that's what she's managed to achieve.
The people that you represent, the workers of the United Kingdom, how do they view this sort of performance by our supposed elected officials and lawmakers, Paul?
I think I could safely say that 95%...
Remember you're live on the radio, Paul.
I think I can safely say that 95% of people don't really pay attention to PMQs and those sort of exchanges backwards and forwards. They're much more interested in, what are the policies that are going to have a real impact on their working lives. And this is, obviously, we're in the midst of that Labour leadership process. Andy Burnham, the only declared candidate so far, Nick. Our members will be looking at it saying, well, what will the new Prime Minister mean for me, my family, my community?
What do you think, Paul Novak, as General Secretary of the TUC, of a potential Burnham premiership? Paul?
Well, listen, I think the new Prime Minister, and maybe it is going to be Andy Burnham, has got to, right from day one, be absolutely clear whose side he's on. And I want him to be on the side of our members and of working people more generally. And I think they've got to deliver that change that people voted for back in July 2024.
That's not been delivered to date then, Paul?
No, I think for lots of people, despite lots of good progress the government's made, Nick, that change feels like it's a slogan on the front of a manifesto rather than their lived reality. And so I think first 100 days of a new Prime Minister, they've got to make sure with every single policy, our members can see the difference they're making in terms of good quality jobs, tackling the cost of living crisis, asking those with the broader shoulders to pay a fairer share when it comes to tax.
Finally, the quality of jobs. The men and women, many of them working in this country, the teachers, the nurses, construction workers out there in this temperature, in the offices and the factories. Do we need to look at a maximum workplace temperature regulation set by government?
We absolutely do, Nick, and I'll tell you for why. I mean, one of my first childhood memories was that 1976 summer heatwave, and that was a one-off. This is becoming the norm now. When me and you were growing up, no one saw temperatures hitting 40 degrees, and so you've got to have, yes, a maximum workplace temperature in place, but also I think in the meantime, employers working with their staff and unions to put in place sensible precautions, whether it's on building sites or in classrooms or in factories, to make sure that people can go to work, stay safe and healthy. And that's practically sometimes just things like giving people breaks, making sure there's good ventilation, making sure there are cold drinks available, sensible measures that make a difference.
But should schools be closing because other workers then have to go, mum or dad has to scramble to go and get the child to look after them because schools close at 12:30?
And clearly that's not what we want to see, but I think individual head teachers need to make an assessment about whether or not they can keep children and staff safe. In the longer term, we've got to make sure all of our school buildings are much more adapted to this fundamental change in our climate, which is a problem for all of us.
Always enjoy our time together. Paul, thanks for your time. Paul Novak is General Secretary of the TUC, the Trades Union Congress. Calls coming in on that. Sam, you're going to be the first caller then. Also after the news, never again, the scandal. More than 500 babies and mums died of avoidable harm. With more on that. It's just turned 8:17. LBC News headlines. Dominic Ellis.
Parts of the UK are bracing for a second day of high temperatures as a red extreme heat warning continues for southern England and Wales. Rescue crews are searching for survivors after two major earthquakes hit Venezuela's capital, Caracas. And the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has thrown her support behind Andy Burnham to replace Sir Keir Starmer, despite reports she may be replaced in his potential cabinet. LBC weather, sunny and hot for many. Outbreaks of rain in the far northwest. A high of 38 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Because of the hot weather, most train companies are running a reduced service again today. And Gatwick Express services won't be running after 1 o'clock this afternoon. You are being asked to only travel on the trains if your journey is absolutely necessary. There are still no trains running as well between Luton and Bedford. On the Underground, there are minor delays on the Hammersmith and City line. No Woolwich Ferry running. That's because of a technical problem. On the road, so lengthy delays on the M25 clockwise. In fact, it's slow for about half an hour to junction 29 at the A127. Also on the M25, there are anti-clockwise queues to junction 2 at the A2 for those emergency repair works. And also on the M25, it is very busy. Heading towards junction 24 at Porters Bar clockwise, some emergency barrier works are taking place.
This is LBC.
Help with that. So what I think is ironic is the fact that even though this was allegedly done to support the struggling state system, what we heard yesterday in Parliament is that the number of teachers is going down, and also we've got far more students going into the state sector, because lots of our students have been able to find places in other independent schools. However, a good proportion of them are also going into the state sector. So we're finding ourselves in a situation where we've got more children in the state sector and fewer teachers. So this is counterproductive. If the intention was ever about improving the state sector, which I doubt, then it certainly failed. What I think it was about is actually punishing the independent sector.
Because of spite?
I think so. I mean, what I thought was interesting in yesterday's exchange in the Commons was Starmer's response, in which he talked about social mobility. But the Labour Party has done nothing for social mobility. You know, in the 1960s, they closed down the grammar schools. They're now closing down independent schools, many of which offer generous bursaries to poor but bright students. So I think spite is the only thing I can really think of.
Lastly, without wishing to probe or to pry inappropriately, but were there financial pressures anyway for the school?
It would be, I think, inappropriate of me to comment on that too far.
Okay.
But it wasn't the only factor that was in...
I mean, I just asked, because I don't know whether you were listening, but I've gone after Bridget Phillipson about this on a number of occasions, and she's made the assertion that the school, and I don't want to talk about you, but she said these schools, it would not be in and of itself enough to close one of these schools down. There would have had to have been other underlying financial issues, is what she has told me on more than one occasion.
That may be the case, but I think in the case of a lot of schools, this is probably the straw that breaks the camel's back.
What are you going to do? You got another job?
I do, yes.
Oh, yeah. Right. OK. Well, I'm pleased to hear that. And are you teaching at the moment, or are you going home at 12:30, or how's it working at the school you're at?
Our school is remaining open for the whole duration of the day, as far as I'm aware, which is not terribly pleasant. It's a big Victorian building with thick walls and large windows.
Yeah, I mean, that's because we used to build houses and schools here, of course, to keep the heat in. That was the whole idea, because it's such a cold country. But unfortunately, the world has moved on. Good luck at your new school, wherever you turn up. Thank you for that. Let's put Elizabeth in Nottinghamshire. Elizabeth, what are you going to say? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. I just want to follow on from what your previous caller was saying. I am a business manager in a state school.
You're a what manager? Sorry,
a business manager.
Business manager, got it. Yeah,
all the money, and I can absolutely confirm that if the goal was to prop up the state schools by putting VAT on the private sector, that is absolutely not what is happening in the state system. We've got less money than ever. We are having to lose people and support staff out of our classrooms, out of our offices, all across schools. We are the most hard up now than we've ever been, particularly since this Labour government. And while I don't condone necessarily the language that's been used by Kemi Badenoch, I absolutely agree with what she's saying. This woman is destroying the lives of our children, particularly in the education sector, budget by budget. And the most frustrating thing, I think, that when I'm speaking to people in schools is this individual puts an awful lot out on social media. She turns all of
You're
her
talking about Bridget
off.
Phillipson, just to clarify now.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
She turns all of her commenting off on social media, so nobody has the right to reply. So she's completely unchallenged in what she's putting out there. And as somebody who works in a school, when she is putting out there things that are categorically wrong, like we've got the highest funding out there for children, we don't. And so when we have our relationship with our families, what they're hearing in the media is not what we're seeing in practice in schools. And that's really damaging, actually, for the relationship schools have with our families, our parents, our carers, because we're doing the best we can with less and less money, less and less resources, less and less staff, fewer teachers out there.
Well, something we do here on LBC exclusively is call the Cabinet, when I and sometimes my colleagues such as Andrew Marr, Sheila Fogarty, get Cabinet ministers to answer questions. So I don't know when next any of us might have Bridget Phillipson, but if you had a question you could put to her, what was the question or the observation that you would make, Elizabeth?
I would like to ask her how much time she has spent out in schools that is not on the PR trail with photographers, because we don't see any people from the Department for Education coming out into schools. It's one of my things that I've been talking to our local MP about, to say, why don't you encourage all your Department for Education colleagues to go out in schools for 1 week? Come and see what is actually like with boots on the ground in schools, because what she's doing in terms of her policies and what she's putting out there to schools, it's not helping us, it's hindering us, and we can't achieve what she's wanting us to.
I must leave it there, Elizabeth. Thank you for that. As and when we hear that Bridget Phillipson, I do hope you'd be able to call in. But thanks, Elizabeth. So we have two people who are involved in the teaching profession, one on the business side, one on the teaching side of the teaching profession, both of us saying, actually, there's quite a bit to what Kemi Badenoch is saying. If you think differently, do get in touch. Now, a story we looked at yesterday, but the full magnitude was still to be revealed, was the so-called Ockenden report. And the scale of the Nottingham maternity scandal, it's been called, has now been laid bare after broken families shared their harrowing tales of grief and neglect. Shocking revelations included details of newborns starved of oxygen, mums-to-be sent home despite serious complications, one case of a baby's body being disposed of as clinical waste. The chair I've referenced earlier, Donna Ockenden, said yesterday,
"This report is about what happens when leadership fails, when governance fails, when a culture develops in which bullying is tolerated, concerns are suppressed, incidents are downgraded."
She certainly didn't pull her words. Let's bring into the conversation Felicity Benyon. Now, we tried to speak with Felicity yesterday, but she was out and about, so we couldn't secure a line, but she is a woman who was directly affected by this. Thanks. I hope I can call you Felicity, and thank you very much for coming on without causing you too much distress or upset. Do you mind telling the listeners what happened in your circumstances? Morning to you.
Morning. Yeah, so I had a difficult pregnancy and was in NUH, Queen's Medical Centre, for over 11 weeks before giving birth. I had a planned C-section in which they chopped off my bladder without even realising.
What is the reputation of the hospital locally, and what do you think went wrong?
Locally, I think the hospital has a terrible reputation, and there's reasons for that, and that's what we've been campaigning about, is the fact that they haven't been doing their job properly. They haven't been taking care of mums and babies safely. And when things have gone wrong, they haven't put things in place to change that. As Donna said yesterday, there's been countless internal and external reviewers that they have done themselves and they've paid other people to do. And then they've not acted on those. They've just carried on with minimal change, which has led to further harm and deaths of mums and babies.
Let's take us through, if you don't mind, take us through your personal experience. So the C-section is planned. The baby was safely delivered. What happened next?
So what happened next is they realised that I had to have an emergency hysterectomy. And during that's when they removed the womb and they saw the catheter balloon. which obviously should be inside of my bladder, and they then couldn't find my bladder in my body cavity, and then they turned over the womb and realised that the whole of it was attached to the back of the womb, and they chopped it off when they'd done the hysterectomy without even realising that's what they'd done. They then proceeded to lie to me when I came round from the anaesthetic and tell me that my bladder had been completely enveloped by placenta accreta, which is a pregnancy complication, and that I would have lost my bladder anyway. I would have ended up with the stoma, the urostomy stoma, and that they saved my life, and I'm really lucky to be here. I just need to get well and get home. And in their own investigation that they did, whilst it was a substandard one and not the correct investigation, they admitted that the bladder was actually perfectly healthy and there was no signs of accreta. So I've since learned through investigations that my case was 100% preventable and should never have happened.
How were you able...
There's policies in place already to stop it from happening.
Sorry, excuse me. How were you able to divine what should have happened and what reality happened? What professionals were you able to use, Felicity?
So in part, their own investigation. Mine should have been a serious incident investigation, but instead they downgraded me to their fictitious high-level one, which meant that it was never reported nationally and never investigated by external people like the GMC, the NMC, things like that. But also my own civil legal case with them and my own urologist, who said that my bladder was perfectly healthy, and that actually if a urologist would have been there, they'd have moved the bladder out of the plane of incision, and if radiology had have been there, which both should have been, radiology would have dyed the bladder blue. This is a common thing in C-sections, never mind hysterectomies. And it was all preventable. It was all known knowledge. The policy is to have a multidisciplinary team meeting and have those experts aware and in place. And that wasn't done, despite me being there for months in advance, with all the time in the world for that to take place.
Was this your first child?
No, my second.
Right. And without prying, how has this left you medically, Felicity? What is your condition now? How do you manage your life?
So I have a permanent urostomy stoma because obviously my bladder's gone now.
You don't have a bladder anymore.
No, there's no choice in that, which has obviously affected me physically, dealing with the bag. It's also had knock-on other physical effects because it led to sepsis and septicemia as well from the damage that I had. So I very nearly died again a few weeks later.
What about the emotional impact?
Psychologically.
Yes, the emotional
it's
impact.
psychologically. Dealing with it, which has been compounded and compounded and compounded by having to fight for the truth, fight for justice, fight to know what's happened, and you know, doing the review, fighting to get Donna, and then just not being told the truth over and over and over again with their denials. You know, we had it in the press multiple times from them in our early days of campaigning that they were drawing a line in the sand, and there was, you know, it's all historical. And now with Donna's proof, that wasn't true. There's still problems now.
What needs to happen after the Ockenden inquiry, would you say, Felicity?
To me, it's a mix of accountability and action. So immediate action is Donna's immediate actions. So it's imperative that Anthony and Nick Carver instruct them timely, fast, to ensure that maternity services at Nottingham are as safe as they can be as quickly as possible. Nationally, James Murray, the Health Secretary, needs to implement them as soon as possible. They don't need to be waiting around to be checked. They are new, they're brand new, they are up to date, and she's had a huge expert-led team that have come up with these recommendations. So they just need implementation straight away. And then we need a public inquiry to understand where the regulatory authorities have absolutely let us down and how this can be prevented from happening again.
Have you had any form of apology from the hospital?
Yes, multiple times. I am lucky I got an apology, letter of apology quite early. I got admission of liability, which is also quite rare with the NHS. But to me, we're way past apologies. We're way past that. We need actual action. We need promises that things are going to change.
I'm grateful for your time. I'm glad we could speak on a quality line. Thank you, Felicity. And again, I hope I haven't caused too much distress taking you through the events. Felicity Badenoch is one of the victims, of course, of the Nottingham maternity scandal. It's 8:33, breakfast with me, Nick Ferrari, here on LBC. But the news headlines then from the newsroom, Dominic Ellis.
The Met Office is warning that yesterday's UK record temperature for June could again be beaten today. A red warning for extreme heat covering much of southern England and southeastern Wales remains in place until midnight. Rescue crews are searching for survivors after 2 strong earthquakes hit Venezuela's capital, Caracas. 32 people have died and more than 700 others have been injured. And the Chancellor has confirmed that she's backing Andy Burnham to become the next Prime Minister. But Rachel Reeves has refused to comment on reports that he's planning to demote her if he enters Downing Street. LBC weather, sunny and hot for many. Outbreaks of rain in the far northwest with the chance of thunderstorms by tonight. A high of 38 degrees.
This is LBC.
Tony, what do you want to tell me? Good morning.
Scott has called from Glasgow. Hi, Scott.
Jane's in Camden first. Hi, Jane.
We have an opportunity to turn the tide, to make people see that politics can make a positive difference, to make people feel hope again.
Hear every side of the story.
Andy Burnham's brought nothing near what he claims he has to the northwest.
Keir Starmer's time's up. This could also signal the end for reform. And I think if Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister, he could unite the left.
I think people in the South underestimate the sense of feeling there is about the way that people feel they've been left behind.
Andy Burnham is not a team player. He just thinks he could just win a by-election and become Prime Minister.
Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app. LBC, leading Britain's conversation.
We all need to learn. Simply closing schools and sending children home is not going to help their education. They won't get any. Let's not forget what came out of COVID. In some areas of children's ages, the increase of people presenting to adolescent and mental health and emotional support grew by more than 50%. It is not healthy. Now, I'm not saying that means that everybody tries to tolerate stuffy classrooms. We need to get to a position where we start to get aircon units in. As I said, I went to a supermarket. They managed to get one of those big industrial ones in. We need to start getting those. But be aware, we must remember the lessons from COVID when sending children home, thinking they would all get an education, and in some instances, and by the way, what makes you think it's going to be cooler, by the way, at their home than it might be at their school? And what's with closing the schools at 12 or 12:30 when, from my understanding, the sun is at its absolute peak? Why would you do that? I'll tell you what, because it's so hot, we're going to turn you out of the school. I also talked about having lessons as I did as a kid, because I was in that heatwave of 76. I said in shaded areas. I did not say in the middle of playing fields, which is what was represented on social media. We were very lucky to have playing fields at the school I attended, I know, and we're even lucky to have a lot of trees. So in one corner we were conjugating French verbs, in another corner we were all learning algebra, and in another corner we were learning about great rivers of the world, or whatever it was, I can't remember. But that was what I said. I'm not saying you put them in the middle of the cricket square, of course you don't. But if you don't teach them resilience at school, where are they going to learn it? And if they see the lesson as a child, when things get a bit tough, we just shut up shop. We just don't go to work. We just close everything down. Well, we've moved so much in the 50 years since I was at school, in that, and I'm not saying it was right, and I don't want children to endure it, but as one of my callers said earlier, we sat and we did our exams. I think we were allowed to remove our ties. I'm not even sure that we were able to do that. I'm not saying we should go back to those days, but there has to be a happy ground, because all this will do is cause more problems for our children as they grow up, because they will have no resilience baked into them. Let's get to more of your calls. Hugh's in Kensington. You're on the radio, Hugh. What are you going to tell me? Good morning.
Nick, good morning. That wonderful word, resilience.
Yes.
The greatest gift any parent can give their child.
Yep, I agree.
So I'm listening to this, and I was thinking, when I was watching our household division trooping the colour last Saturday in the heat, nothing was cancelled, and of course SAS selection will be carrying on as I speak in the Brecon Beacons.
Yeah, we have to be careful about that, though, because sometimes we lose good folk. We can be aware of that.
That's a very good point. But in the military, heat-related injuries, including sunburn, is treated as a self-inflicted wound and often charged a week's pay. But I've got 5 tips I thought I would perhaps suggest to listeners to help get through this time. So the first one is, just in case you've got any rogue snipers in your area, close your curtains and blinds, and it will also keep your rooms much cooler.
Couldn't agree more. Do that regularly. Yep, my curtains are drawn even as we speak.
Secondly, and this is also has a significant impact on net zero, why don't you turn your underpants inside out and you get an extra week's use of them, and you haven't got to therefore use your washing machine?
You're not serious. I know you might have been in the SBS, but we don't all want to live like that, man. No.
Well, I'm just thinking in these extreme times.
Okay.
And we can also.
So we're betting one good, one bad. The future of this call depends on your third suggestion.
Okay, absolutely. In the jungle, you wash your clothes at night. So I would suggest that the kids' school uniforms could be put in a bath of cold water overnight. They wring them dry, and in the morning they've got nice, cool clothes to wear to school, and a cold shower at night.
Right.
Certainly I find out, because whoever's done the scheduling for the World Cup needs charging.
Well, I'm going to say one win, one definite loss, and a kind of score draw on those 3 ideas, Hugh. But thank you. And again, the point of resilience, I think, is well made. 8:41. Be well, Hugh. Emily in Peckham. Emily, how are you coping? What do you make of all these school closures? Good morning.
I am 6 months pregnant, which obviously does make me slightly,
my goodness,
slightly biased, because I'm a primary school teacher, 7 to 8 years old, and I am totally against shutting schools. Like, I totally agree with what you said about COVID, but I just think my class, we've got 30 children. They all sit in such close proximity to each other. The windows can barely open. There's one fan that doesn't rotate, which was obviously pointed at me because I'm in my condition.
Of course.
And the children, we weren't doing any learning. Maybe the first hour in the morning we managed to sort of do a vague maths lesson, but they were so hot. And my head decided not to let them outside as well, because going outside would just make them even hotter, because working in an inner city London school, which I think is very different maybe to a lot of schools we're thinking about, there's no shade in the playground. My daughter goes to the school, and I can categorically say that she is so much better off at home. And I live I'm a private tenant in an ex-council flat. Mm-hmm. I'm keeping her wet. She's got a cold bath run so she can dip in there all day. There's a fan pointed straight at her face. She's not sitting next to 30 little hot bodies. She came back yesterday after 2 days at school, and she had this sort of heat exhaustion, heat stroke. And I just think, she's much better off at home. But
not every child, Emily, not every child will be. And I just take you back to the days of COVID, and I think history will judge not all the measures, but some of the measures taken as regards children's education during COVID as incredibly negative. Really.
I agree. We need aircon. We need funding for aircon, because I think children should be in schools. There's no doubt about that. But the working conditions that I was experiencing on Monday and Tuesday were shocking. It was cruel. It felt cruel.
But lastly, I know what you say, and I hear what you're providing for your children. A lot of those kiddies, sending them home at 12:30 when the sun's at its absolute peak to houses that are even hotter is not going to help them.
But I mean, my council flat has a community garden with we've got a paddling pool in it. There's a balcony. I've got a paddling pool on my balcony.
Well done.
But I also totally agree, schools shouldn't be shut, but then we need extra funding for air conditioning.
No, we do. We need to get those mobile aircon units in. Good luck. That's going to be a nice next 3 months to go, isn't it? Count them down. Just try and get through this summer, you poor girl. I'll be thinking of you, Emily. Look after yourself. Thank you. Ben's in Woodford. Ben, what are you going to tell me on this story? Good morning.
Morning, Nick. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Good to have you on. Thank you very much. Well done.
Yes, so I've worked in construction for the last 16 years or so.
Yeah.
And it used to be very much commonplace to hand out sun cream on sites to protect the workers working outside. Mm-hmm. Now, this stopped about 5 or 6 years ago. Now, what initiative would cause us to stop this? Ultimately, it's a health and safety initiative, because you're not allowed to give sun cream to people because actually a minority of people are allergic to sun creams. So we're taking proactive measures at the cost of developers to protect the workers, and health and safety won't let us do it.
But I'm a worker, right? Yeah. And I can use. I'm going to put it on. I'm not going to start putting it on your arms, Ben. I'm just going to look after my arms and my back.
Exactly that. Yeah. The dispensers all around site. You've got people. You've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people working outside today in these conditions around curing concrete, getting to temperatures of 50 degrees around curing concrete. And they're not allowed to protect themselves.
And that's the government health and safety executive, is it, saying that?
Correct.
So you're no longer allowed to make sun cream, sun lotion available to your teams?
No.
That's madness. What's it like? What's the last couple of days been like, Ben?
Very, very hot. Very hot indeed, especially in some of the electrical rooms in the building that we're doing a data centre.
What do you reckon you're getting to? What temperature do you reckon you're getting to in those electrical rooms?
I reckon they're getting to 45, 46 degrees. We've had to buy a load of fans for the team. And the problem is we can't keep the doors open because it's a health and safety risk of fire. So I mean, it's all kind of
It's like a mad world. It's catch-22. It's absolutely catch-22, isn't it? You just keep going around in circles.
Absolutely.
Look, good luck with the work you do. Thank you. I wasn't aware of that. Something we might have a look at. Bart in Basildon, this country gets crazier every day. It's hot weather. I'm driving a van. I've got no aircon. You just get on with it. Look at what they're like in drone attacks in Ukraine. Well, I don't know if we want to necessarily compare ourselves with Ukraine, but I see what you're saying. Jag Deep says, I think we're genuinely a modern third world country. We cannot cope when the weather gets cold. We cannot cope when the weather gets hot. James in Reading, in 1976, we had few cars with air conditioning. Golly, I don't think we had any, did we? Few workspaces with air conditioning and few schools. The only difference between then and now is the historical climate change agenda that exists, which uses natural temperature spikes to drive their financially driven ideology. We're going to stay with this. Also coming up after the news.
They waited 5 years, but now that Peter Murrell is behind bars, 2 whistleblowers have broken their silence to LBC on the farce of SNP finances and the abuse they received for trying to alert Nicola Sturgeon. I'm Gina Davidson with the exclusive story.
Plus, as the likely to be incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham says he wants to move some aspects of Number 10 north. He wants everything to pass the Makerfield test, whatever that is, and he wants a Manchesterised economy. When I say the North or the Northerners, what do you think of? Their spirit, their mood, their reaction? Do you want to see more Northern involvement? We'll look at that in the next hour. The 8:45 LBC News headlines now, though. Dominic Ellis.
The Met Office is warning the UK's highest ever temperature for June could be beaten again today. Rescue crews are searching for survivors after 2 strong earthquakes hit Venezuela's capital, Caracas. And the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has become the most senior member of the Cabinet to back Andy Burnham to become the next Labour leader. LBC weather, sunny and hot for many, outbreaks of rain in the far northwest with a chance of thunderstorms by tonight. A high of 38 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Ware. Because of the hot weather, most train companies are having to run a reduced service again today, and there's still no trains running between Luton and Bedford. On the road, so delays for about half an hour on the M25 clockwise to junction 29 at the A127 because 2 lanes are closed following the overnight works. And also on the M25, it's slow anti-clockwise to junction 2 at the A2 and clockwise to junction 24 at Porter's Bar, and both of those delays caused by emergency works. The highway is closed still westbound between Limehouse and Wapping. It's following an accident. There are severe delays back onto the A13, and also the A11 through Bow is extremely busy. And in central London, the Victoria
Peter Murrell, sentencing, of course, taking place earlier this week. More details now are emerging exactly what went on to allow him to amass and spend more than £400,000 of party funds. Remember, he got 5 years and 3 months earlier this week. Well, LBC have now heard from some people, some whistleblowers, and here with the exclusive report, LBC Scotland political editor Gina Davison joins me now. Gina, good morning. What have you got?
Morning, Nick. Yes, well, they waited 5 years, but these whistleblowers have now blown open the apparent farce that was the SNP's financial governance under Peter Murrell and Nicola Sturgeon. Now, we know, as you say, he's behind bars for embezzlement, but when 3 ordinary SNP members on the party's Finance and Audit Committee tried to raise concerns back in 2021, they felt the full force of what they say was a toxic organisation full of, well, to put it as politely as possible, Nick, toadies who took their lead solely from Nicola Sturgeon, who just refused to accept that there was anything wrong. Now, you'll remember this leaked video.
Just be very careful, all of us, about suggestions that there are problems with the party's finances. There are no reasons for people to be concerned about the party's finances, and all of us need to be careful about not suggesting that there is.
Now, that was Nicola Sturgeon responding to Alison Graham, who has now spoken to LBC about that moment. She had just read out a joint resignation statement from her and 2 others after what they say were weeks and weeks of stonewalling from Peter Murrell, who had wanted them to pass a budget without seeing any figures. This is what Alison told me.
Nicola was actually speaking to me because I had just read this statement, and then I got absolutely abusively attacked by a councillor, and then they all piled in on the chat, including the First Minister, who said, "Well said, Ian." After that, she came in, and that's the video that people have seen that was in the press. I remember it felt very threatening to me personally, because it was to close down what I'd said and to make sure nobody else asked any questions.
And it seems to have worked, Nick. Alison says that not one single member on the party's ruling body, that National Executive Committee, asked a question about why they were resigning. They just went on the attack. And she says that emboldened Peter Murrell. Now, another of the 3 who quit, Cynthia Guthrie, says that the culture in the party, because it was a husband and wife team at the top, meant that blind eyes were turned to what was going on. And she says there was an attitude that everything would be fine because it was just Peter. This is what she said.
I thought, I can't take this anymore, because if I can't change this. I realised, who am I going to go to? His wife? Who's going to do anything about this? With his wife there, and with her batting everybody down and shutting them up and saying everything was fine, he was given, if he had that kind of innate characteristic that would steal, it was like giving a child a key to a chocolate.
Now, they feel they have been vilified and traduced by other SNP members in the long 5 years since they resigned and until this date that Peter Murrell has been sentenced, but they feel now that they have been fully vindicated, Nick, and that something had been going badly wrong, and they ultimately have been proven correct.
Gina Davison, LBC Scotland political editor, with that exclusive report. Let's stay with the political agenda, but bring it back down here to Prime Minister's questions, with which we started, of course, the show, the exchange of language from Kemi Badenoch. Well, actually, the language was in one direction, apparently. It kicked off a bit more after PMQs. Wayne in Burnley, good on Kemi Badenoch for having a go at those wimpish Labour cabinet ministers who are all crawling up to the new, here today, gone tomorrow, King of the North. Adrian in Ainsford says Labour are spiteful class warriors. This is why they've attacked farms, fox hunting and private schools. What we want are policies that grow our economy. More money results in higher tax revenue and benefits all. When in opposition, Labour did just the same to Conservatives ministers. Dig out the recordings. Let's take a call on that. Brian in York. Brian, your reaction to the language that you heard. Good morning.
Morning, Nick. It was just, I was fully behind Kemi yesterday. I thought she was absolutely brilliant. The things that Bridget Phillipson has brought in, everything she seems to do, she wants to justify by telling everybody that she once came out of poverty.
Yes.
And I tend to think that the whole of the Labour Party, or certainly the MPs, they try and justify their policies and their statements by coming out with like, for instance, Keir Starmer with his "my dad was a toolmaker." if their policies and their statements held any weight, they wouldn't have to come out with these things. And regards Kemi's supposedly derogatory language yesterday, later on, Robert Jenrick mentioned to Lisa Nandy, who was the minister that was stood at the...
That was the Culture Secretary, yes, indeed.
That's right, yeah. We were talking about the media and certain things with social media. And Labour always like to preach about derogatory language and divisiveness, but Lisa Nandy stood up and said, called Robert Jenrick's party a disgusting party. Well, that's derogatory language in anybody's terms.
It is.
And that's divisive, and it's okay for the Labour front bench to call other parties out on it, but they never seem to realise that they're doing exactly the same thing.
What does it do, generally, what does it do for politics, would you say, Brian, lastly?
Well, I mean, we're not getting to the point, are we? We're not getting to the point of what politics is. We're not solving problems because basically all parties are fighting each other. They're fighting each other with language. They're trying to put each other down. The British public just want the policies to work. We don't care whether your dad was a toolmaker, whether you lived in poverty. I mean, your previous contributor, Dan Tomlinson, he had to throw in there that he came from poverty. I just want the policies to work, Nick. We just want the country back on its feet. We don't need to know that these people once had a hard time, therefore that's why it justifies their statements and policies.
Yes, it's so much, as you rightly say, we're reminded of their backstory so many times. Brian, thank you. Let's finish off the hour with one more call on heat and the heat wave that's striking the country. It's going to be another hot one today, Sad. It's going to be another hot one tomorrow. More records possibly tumbling. Daniel's in Northampton. You've just dropped your children off at school, or your daughter, is that right?
Good morning, Nick. Yes, so I've just dropped she's 5 years old. I've just dropped off at school. And her friends all going into school wearing their summer PE kits, carrying their handheld fans. They've all got sunblock. They've all got a cap on. The school have laid on, every break time this week, the school have laid on ice lollies for the kids to buy to cool down. They've laid on additional activities indoors, so they're not turning the kids out at midday into the sun. I just think we could learn a lot from the kids, who seem to be fairly resilient and adaptable. And I think if we could learn a few lessons from the kids who've just been able to switch into this summer mode, then we'd all fare a lot better in the sunshine.
Were you able to get one of those handheld fans? Because I understood they were selling out, or have you had it for some time?
So, yeah, I was very fortunate to manage to get one while the shelves were looking pretty depleted. But I think this is one of the things, we know we're going to have hotter summers, so let's equip ourselves earlier. You can't get an air conditioning unit for love nor money at the moment. No. But come December, they'll be bountiful. So let's all sort of plan ahead and be more adaptable.
Planning is everything. Good luck with the little one at school. I hope she has a good school day. Thank you for that. Coming up after the news, moving up north, literally, the possible Prime Minister Andy Burnham wants to move departments from number 10, wants everything to pass the Makerfield test. So what is it about the north or northern people?
Northern people are just warmer, kinder and funnier.
That's Peter Kay. Do you agree? Plus, too young for breast cancer. The campaigning now, women under 50 are being dismissed, diagnosed late. Melanie Sturvevant is from the charity Breast Cancer Now.
Breast screening is for women who don't have any symptoms or potential symptoms of breast cancer. Breast screening can find breast cancer at the earliest possible stage when treatment's most likely to be successful.
Plus, of course, we'll stick on the heatwave too. News on LBC is next.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 9 o'clock, the Met Office is warning that yesterday's UK record temperature for June could again be beaten today. Gosport in Hampshire saw a high of 36.1 Celsius, passing a record set in 1976. The sweltering heat has forced hundreds of schools to close, prompting criticism that pupils may be missing critical lesson time. The Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury, Dan Tomlinson, admitted earlier to Nick Ferrari at breakfast there is work to do.
This is difficult, and I'm sure there'll be parents with kids the same age as my son who have a similar situation with nursery and having to find out that they need to get home to pick up their children. We need to make sure that we're investing in buildings in our schools. That's something the government is doing. We've increased our capital budget.
But I think we need aircon, respectfully, Minister, don't we?
Well, that's what I mean in terms of buildings and the physical infrastructure that we have in our schools to make them more prepared for a warmer world.
A red warning for extreme heat covering much of southern England and southeastern Wales remains in place until midnight. Rescue crews are searching for survivors after 2 strong earthquakes hit Venezuela's capital Caracas overnight. 32 people have died and more than 700 others have been injured. The Chancellor has confirmed that she's backing Andy Burnham to become the next leader of the Labour Party and Prime Minister. But Rachel Reeves has refused to comment on reports that he's planning to demote her if he enters Downing Street. The Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, has hit back at the Conservative leader who called her a spiteful class warrior during PMQs yesterday. Kemi Badenoch says she won't apologise for the language used when criticising the decision to make private schools pay VAT. Ms Phillipson has told LBC the remarks were unpleasant and unnecessary.
I have to say, however, if being a spiteful class warrior means improving the lives of children across our country, if that means lifting 500,000 children out of poverty, then I will proudly wear that badge. In fact, I'm going to go and get myself a T-shirt saying spiteful class warrior. It's just a shame I won't be able to wear it in the Commons chamber because you're not allowed to wear slogans in there.
An initiative aimed at cutting the cost of family days out over the summer is being rolled out across the UK. It's designed to ease the impact of the cost of living from the Iran war. Ministers say families will benefit from ticket reductions to theme parks, zoos and children's cinema tickets. Sir Keir Starmer has told LBC it's proof that he's backing working families. You can read his exclusive comment piece on the LBC app. And Scotland's manager Steve Clarke has admitted his side are probably going home from the World Cup. They lost 3-0 overnight to Brazil. The result leaves them finishing 3rd in Group C. In the city, a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading up 10 at 10,469. The pound buys $1.31 and €1.16. LBC weather. Sunny and hot for many. Outbreaks of rain in the far northwest with a chance of thunderstorms by tonight. A high of 38 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Dominic Ellis.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Morning, 4 minutes after 9, Thursday the 25th of June, as Andy Burnham plots a number 10 of the North. Why? What do Northerners mean to you? We'll look at that in more detail. Plus, every year in the UK, thousands of young people are diagnosed with breast cancer, having been dismissed by their GP or overlooked in other ways. Adrian Waller is CEO of the health technology company Macrima.
2/3 of breast cancers are first detected by a woman, whether that's because you're regularly self-checking or whether, it gets to a point where something is so obvious that you can see it or you can feel it.
Plus, as the temperatures continue to soar. That's a new one. What's happened to Billy Idol? Has he upset somebody? We'll be looking at the idea of some kind of maximum temperature in the workplace. And if you think it's hot now, if you're old enough to remember, I'll take you back to 1976 because, folks, you ain't seen nothing like that.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Already on the front page of the Financial Times, Andy Burnham is looking to set up a number 10 in the North, his words not mine, moving part of his prime ministerial operation to Manchester in an attempt to shift power beyond Westminster. He will set out plans on Monday, it is reported, for a devolution of power if, as is expected, he becomes Prime Minister in July. Moving part of the Downing Street operation to Manchester is the most eye-catching part of the agenda. One source telling the paper, quotes, Andy has big plans on devolution. That includes having an office in the North, close quotes. So, when you hear Northerners, and if you're just joining the programme, I'm fairly bulletproof here. I'm going to repeat this because my mum, I told you many, many times, was raised in Leicester, but she got there when she was about 4 or 5. I'll never know the correct age because she's no longer with us, but she was born in Barrow-in-Furness, which is pretty up there. And by the way, within the last 12 months, I married a Northerner as well. So I'm in a good place here. I'm feeling pretty secure. I think I'm going to be all right with a wife from Yorkshire. When you hear or think of Northerners or the North, what comes to mind? They can undoubtedly be very witty.
Hey, they don't do peas down south. I went down south doing some shows, went to a chippy. I said, chips and peas, please. We don't do peas. You what? We don't do peas. They don't do peas. They don't do... That's my friend, he's outside through the window. You've got to talk like that through glass. They don't do peas. Curry sauce, curry sauce, curry sauce. You do curry sauce? Don't do curry sauce, mate. What? We don't do curry sauce. They don't do curry sauce. Curry sauce, no go, no go. Gravy, gravy. We don't do gravy. They don't do gravy. My friend come in, he said, hey, how's that out moist? How's that out moist? Forget it, we're going.
They can undoubtedly be very funny. They're certainly very entertaining.
Hello, good morning, good evening. Welcome to Australia. We are back and we're here for the next 3 weeks. Your hosts with the most, me and the gorgeous Holly Willoughby.
What? Sorry, what? What?
Oh, guys, that's the wrong script. You put the wrong script in the thing.
Sorry, what?
Nobody was sure if you would make it or not. We didn't know if you'd be here.
Unbelievable!
Anton Deck 2090, that's cleverly written, isn't it? The year Ant returned to the show. So they're entertaining, they're undoubtedly witty, they're probably quite upbeat. Are they enthusiastic and optimistic?
This now is the change moment. We have an opportunity to turn the tide, to make the country feel like it's working again, to make people see that politics can make a positive difference, to make people feel hope again. That is the main thing I think we need in this country right now, for people to feel a sense of hope.
Let's bring into the conversation Mancunian Angela Epstein, journalist, broadcaster, writes for titles such as the Daily Mail, the Express and the Daily Telegraph. I didn't know you were from the great second city of the country, or maybe third, maybe third, Angela. What's special about being a northerner? Morning.
Oh, Nick, good morning, love. Good morning. I'm actually, not only am I from the great city, I've lived there my entire life.
Have
was
you?
Born there, bred there, raised my kids there, went to university there, did everything there, started my working life there. So, yeah. I do. I mean, I shuttle back and forwards to London, but I live in the north.
Well, you guys are in the driving seat now with Mayor Burnham, well, former Mayor Burnham, aren't you? What makes a northerner? Yeah, I think you will be, yeah. What makes a northerner?
Okay, so I was interested to listen to your clips because north is a massively all-inclusive term. You played Anton Deck from Tyneside.
I did.
Peter Kay's from Bolton. I'm from North Manchester. We would say we're quite different from people that live in Newcastle. So the north, what is it? Once you get past Watford Gap, we kind of homogenise into one group. So I don't mean that in a kind of disrespectful way, but we've got to understand the many colours of the north. I really understand Burnham in particular because he's very much from Manchester, as is Angela Rayner from Manchester as well. But the thing is that what defines us, yes, we are gritty, we are humorous, we are welcoming, we want to invite conversation. If you ask somebody for directions when you get on a bus about which stop you should get off, be prepared to have a whole long, involved conversation about where the bus is going. And all those things are great. I mean, get on the tube in London and God forbid you make eye contact with somebody, they think you want to kill them. So there's all that going on. But, as the late, great Joe Cox said, there's more that unites us than divides us in terms of northerners and southerners because we're all human beings. But I do think fundamentally that idea of being able to reach out to people without worrying that it's weird to do so, whether it's through humour, whether it's just through conversation, is very much what it defines to be a northerner.
You said, because you're from Manchester, I very much understand Andy Burnham. Angela, I want to drill down into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
What is the understanding that gives you of Mr. Burnham, the probable next PM?
Yeah, okay, and I don't say that as a fan, by the way.
Oh, okay,
I say
sure.
it as I see what he's trying to do. He's making kind of his Manchester Northern, now Makerfield kind of CV, almost a personality trait. I'm Northern, I'm authentic, trust me, I understand what people want. You can almost hear him go full kind of Mancunian when he speaks. And obviously, it's in his DNA that he's from the north, and I understand all that. But that doesn't give him the right to say, you know, that makes me more worthy or trustworthy because I'm a northerner. And I almost feel like he's sort of trying to optimise the brand rather tactically in order to make people believe that he is somebody that we can trust. Yes, he had some successes with his mayoralty in Manchester. We've got a very nice B network. But equally, record homelessness. We had to junk the clean air scheme, which cost over 100 million quid.
Really?
And now we're going to have to fork out 4 million quid for a mayoral by-election because a Labour MP stood down to make way for another Labour MP. So, you know, there's a lot that being an authentic northerner doesn't give him a free pass to sort of, you know, make us sort of understand and accept some of the things that he's done.
Final question, Angela. Noting that we don't know which, but we'll know more on Monday, apparently, the FT reporting, some departments or areas will be moved up to, quotes, the north. How do you guard against tokenism?
Well, exactly. I think it's a ridiculous idea. How much is that going to cost? Of course, there's an argument against London centrism in Westminster, but that is the great seat of where Parliament meets. And what happens to all the rural constituencies on, say, the East Coast that don't quite touch the North? You know, what does it mean? That the fact is that there are MPs that represent people from all over the country, and the geography isn't really what matters. What matters is the understanding. And I don't know whether, I mean, I'm sure it makes it a lot easier for Andy Burnham to pop back to Makerfield if he remembers the constituents that elected him while he's running the country, if he gets the big job. But I'm not sure. I just think it's kind of a big headline number. Starmer's premiership has been saddled with, no vision, no big ideas, no imagination. And I just feel like this is just a great headline maker, which it is because it's on the front of the load of the papers this morning.
Always enjoy speaking with you, Angela. Thank you. Have a good day up there, Angela Epstein. Mancunian broadcaster, journalist. You find her in titles such as the Daily Mail, the Express, Daily Telegraph. Let's come to your views. Just going to come to you, Mark, in just a moment. But I said that I think this will be the first Northern Prime Minister in many, many years. And I went back to Harold Wilson, Huddersfield-born, Liverpool MP. Graham in Pinner, Maggie Thatcher was born in Grantham. Wouldn't that be considered as the North? Well, actually, and well done, Graham. I thought you'd got me, but I've actually checked it. That Lincolnshire is classified as the East Midlands. Rightly or wrongly? Chaz says, as a Scotsman, I view Northerners as Highlanders and Manchester as down south. Paul says, my dad is Newcastle born and bred. I've been Hertfordshire all my life. I occasionally work up north, and I love it when I do. Friendly people, fair prices. Give me the north over London any day. Mark's in Chester. Mark, what would you say to that? Good morning.
Yeah, hi, Nick. As you know, I'm normally a Surrey boy, Weybridge, formerly of Marbella for 14 years.
Right.
I've been up in Chester, for the last 6 months.
Have you? Okay. Yeah. On work or undercover?
Well, sort of. It was a long story. That's another chapter, another day.
Okay.
But yes,
all right.
Looking for.
Okay.
Other opportunities weren't down south, and they weren't in Marbella at the moment. So
okay. All right.
Up here.
This gun running is a tough business, let's be honest.
Yeah, okay. These people up here are absolutely lovely. Okay, yes, we do have the curry sauce or the mushy pea thing, and they've even got spam fritters. I haven't heard of spam when I was in Surrey since school dinners. But
you've got a southern accent. Are they welcoming to you? Because clearly you were not born in Cheshire. Are they very welcoming to you?
Absolutely. I thought, when I first came up here, and I've been into Manchester itself and Liverpool and Bootle and even the North East as well on my travels. And I can actually proudly walk in and say, up the Chelsea.
Right, okay.
Whereas I think in the 70s or 80s, I would have been beaten up during those turf wars.
So they're welcoming, they're friendly. I mean, they're just decent folk, Mark. Is that what we're saying?
Decent folk, funny, welcoming. Manchester, those skyscrapers that have gone up, wow, that is something else. And their trams are... I'm not a Burnham fan, by the way, or anti-Burnham. Right. But it is a new city, without a doubt. Liverpool's pretty good as well.
A lot of money's gone into Liverpool as well. And, of course, Chester, you're practically between the two. Mark, look after yourself. Thank you. Good luck. Whatever you're trying to do on the enterprise front, look after you. Be safe. Coming up after the news, how many people, thousands of young people, diagnosed with breast cancer, having been dismissed by GP or other checks. Karen Witchells-Plunkett is a breast cancer survivor.
I've spoken to younger women and women of my age, and they don't know about breast density. They've not heard of it.
Plus, watch the Mercury soar again. I mean, who'd want to go to a concert tonight? You wouldn't want to do that, would you? You'd have to be nuts to do that this evening when you could stay at home with a nice fan playing. We'll come back to that conversation and ask, should there be a maximum temperature in our workplaces? 9:16 LBC News headlines. Dominic Ellis.
Parts of the UK are bracing for a second day of high temperatures as a red extreme heat warning continues for southern England and Wales. Rescue crews are searching for survivors after 2 major earthquakes hit Venezuela's capital, Caracas. And the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has thrown her support behind Andy Burnham to replace Sir Keir Starmer, despite reports she may be replaced in his potential cabinet. LBC weather, sunny and hot for many, outbreaks of rain in the far northwest, a high of 38 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne, where because of the hot weather, most train companies are running to a reduced service again today, and Gatwick Express services again won't run after 1 o'clock this afternoon. Also on the trains, no services again between Luton and Bedford. On the roads, there are so many problems on the M25. First on the Kent stretch, it's slow to junction 2 at the A2 for the emergency works. Emergency works are also taking place on the M25 clockwise on the Hertfordshire stretch at junction 24 at Porter's Bar, so that's causing delays. And then clockwise on the Essex stretch, it's very busy at junction 29 at the A127 because 2 lanes remain closed. In central London, the Victoria Embankment's closed both ways and the highway's closed at westbound from Limehouse to Wapping following an accident.
This is LBC.
Yes, but we're talking. This is you, Alistair. Yes, we're talking about the north of England, though, just to clarify, because that's where. This is you, Alistair. Yes, we're talking about the north of England, though, just to clarify, because that's where. And Mr. Burnham is reportedly going to move some of the parts of Number 10. Ollie, my partner is a Geordie, moved to the northeast last year. What a fantastic place. People are amazing. I've never felt more at home. And I'm from Bedford, says Ollie. So what is it? What is it about the north? Colin in Gants Hill. Colin, what can you tell me? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. As a Liverpudlian who lived a lot of years in Newcastle on Tyne, I have no drum to beat against the north. However, I have a career as a civil servant in London and saw so many people jump on the civil service gravy train when decentralisation took place. Right. They opened up offices all up and down the country. Staff moved up and got relocation expenses, moved back and got relocation expenses. First class travel up and down the country for meetings, absolutely essential. We couldn't possibly travel on a standard fare. Really, it was an enormous gravy train, and I saw a lot of people make a lot of money out of it, Nick.
Is that the reality of what we're going to see here, do you think, lastly?
I have little doubt. Do you really think they can recruit brand new people to fill in the posts in Manchester? I come from a slightly older generation. Harold Wilson never had to have regional offices, and he made some most significant advances of any Labour Prime Minister.
Something I'll remember as and when this comes out next week. Colin, thank you. Sean in Matfield. Sean, your view. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick, and your listeners. Macclesfield, born and bred up north.
Macclesfield, know that, yeah. That's footballers' wives' territory now, isn't it, I think?
It is, yeah. My house was a slum, though, so I moved there very quickly to join the army.
Right.
But based now in Kent, best years of my life down in south of England.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
So you're bucking the trend here, as it were. How do you view, being one yourself, how do you view Mr. Burnham's view of the North and his ambitions?
I hate to say this, but the North is very one-dimensional. They're all the same. There's no sort of style about it. I hate to say this, but when I'm down south...
There's no style? What do you mean by that?
What I'm trying to say is one-dimensional. Andy's trying to be the bloke next door, the Prime Minister. Where's his style? Where's his character? When you come down south, you meet diversity. when I performed I was Army 10 years, you know that, British
Army.
Yes, I do,
yeah, I know.
They took me down the Medway Towns, went the missus down to Kent and that, and then I stayed south to be near the mother-in-law, obviously. Yes. So I did have to. And then I formed this business when I came out of the military, based in Bromley, but all the big stores and head offices are in London. From Bromley South, I can get to Victoria Station in 20 minutes. I can be up the Haymarket into Piccadilly.
But isn't that what he's trying to put right? Is it fair? And I hear what you say, and obviously I'm a southerner, born and bred. Is it fair that all the major offices are in and around the city, in and around London?
Yeah, you go where the action is. It's all internet-based now anyway. Can I add one other thing to prove my point and validate everything? I had this Amazon Kindle, you know about this Amazon Kindle autobiography, to prove everything, what I've done, achieved everything, and that's slum in Macclesfield, the southern part of England, give me the opportunity. It's called From Fear to Paradise, and the good news is you're in it. I extended the Kindle, right?
I'm in it.
You're in it. I started, right, can I give you my Instagram account? I don't mind giving it out.
Just briefly, right. Yes, I'm getting a nod. Go ahead.
I'm Brenchley Sean. Brenchley, there's village in Kent. Brenchley, BRENCHLEY, SHAUN. It's a fantastic, you're in for a treat, because you see why I go to Stockholm quite a lot. Wink, wink. And then you'll see the link at the top, the Amazon Kindle link. Read the book, people, because you'll see how I got to paradise, from fear to paradise, getting out of the north.
From a slum in Macclesfield. I got to end it there. Sean, always good to hear from you. Thank you. Dan in Surrey, as a southerner, northerners are so much more friendly. For the England-Ghana game, I was in Manchester. There were issues with World Pay which impacted card machines. I had no cash. An elderly gentleman next to me asked why I was leaving, and I said, I've no money, so I need to go back to my hotel. He kindly bought me a couple of pints. I felt very guilty, but how kind was that? And it would never have happened in London. Jonathan in Deal, which is in Kent, we're fed up with Labour people telling us about their poor beginnings, which probably colours their point of view. You don't hear Tories banging on about their privileged silver spoon upbringing and private education. We might return to that, but to other matters, and to important and very serious and actually grave health matters. Every year in this country, thousands of young people are diagnosed with breast cancer after having been dismissed by their GPs or overlooked by other checks. Well, a landmark report has come from Copperfield, alive to do those things, talking about those numbers. And here was someone with personal experience of this, is Romilly Smith, who is a breast cancer patient, dismissed by her GP, some 5 or 6 years ago, when she was 30, and she joins me now. Thank you very much for coming on the line. If we can start with the history of this, if I take you back those 5 or so years, were you experiencing symptoms? Did you find a lump, if I may ask you that? Romilly, good morning.
Yeah, of course. So I originally went to my GP and it was about another issue, but I brought up the fact that I was experiencing some discharge from one of my nipples in that appointment. And that's a really known sign of breast cancer, which I wasn't aware of myself. And the doctor was very dismissive. They said, it's probably just thrush. We'll send you some cream. Didn't ask to follow up, didn't ask to check. And it was back end of COVID, so I was lucky enough to have an in-person appointment and no checks were done. So I was sort of left that meeting thinking, I think it's okay then, I'm sure it's fine.
Did your doctor, did he or she examine your breast?
No, they didn't, no.
Oh, good Lord. I mean,
it actually
even
turns out
and I have no medical experience. If I had a patient present myself, a young woman your age, saying I've got a discharge from my nipple, I think the very least I'm going to do is I better take a look at it, or probably send you off for tests, I would have thought.
Yeah, and it turned out afterwards it was actually a physician's assistant, not a GP, that I didn't know. So I think they obviously hadn't made the link.
Good grief.
But yeah, luckily enough, I got a text from Copperfield, a reminder text, and about 2 months later I did check myself and did find the lump. Thank God, because I dread to think what would have happened if I hadn't.
So again, I don't want to get too personal, but what happened after you found the lump? What did you do next?
I went back through to my GP and
But you still had confidence in them, even though the office had effectively dismissed you prior?
Well, I didn't know at this point that it definitely was breast cancer. I ended up calling them back, and then I had a direct referral to the hospital where, to be fair, as soon as I was in that system, everything moved extremely quickly.
Do you mind my asking, did you have breast cancer?
Yes, I did. Grade 2 triple positive breast cancer, so...
What does that... Sorry, does that mean surgery? How is that treated, Romilly? I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah, so I had 6 rounds of chemotherapy, I had 20 sessions of radiotherapy, I had surgery, I had another drug for a year called Herceptin, and until recently I was on further treatment. But yeah, I'm taking a break from medication at the moment because I'm pregnant. So.
Oh, well, that's fantastic news. Oh, I'm glad there's going to be an update. Yeah. I was getting quite depressed there. I'm so excited for you. OK,
Thank you.
Tell everybody about the importance of Copperfield. How can people get involved, Romilly?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is signing up to their free text service, because that sends you a text on the 1st of the month to remind you to check your chest.
Sorry, are you meant to do it monthly then?
Yes.
Is it, I think, in the shower is the best place, isn't it, or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It can be anywhere, honestly. I think it's just, if you go to Copperfield's website, it'll give you all the information of how to check your chest.
Yes.
And especially as a younger person, any gender, it's really important to get to know what's normal for you and to advocate for yourself if you feel like something isn't. You know, doctors are amazing, but you know your body better than anyone. So it's super important to check.
OK. How do you feel about the physician who missed it first time out?
I did go through a formal complaint process.
Did you? Yeah.
And they did do a really big piece on, younger women, particularly. The GP surgery went through that whole thing. So I feel like, unfortunately, I was the person that was missed, but I think off the back of that, they have made some changes. So yeah.
Okay. Is it your first baby?
It is, yes.
And so how pregnant are you?
6 months.
Fantastic. Do we know the gender, or have we not told Mum and Dad yet?
No, it's a baby girl.
Oh, I was going to suggest well, you go for Nicola. We could always get that in honour.
Yeah.
Well, the best of luck. I hope it goes. Oh, you've got the summer to endure, haven't you?
I know, it's been hot, I've got to say.
Oh, have you got a fan and everything? And
I have.
Good. Thank you so much for appearing on behalf of the charity. Very grateful. Romilly Smith, breast cancer patient, telling the importance of Copperfield. Actually, related to that, I've just remembered. So I'm watching my Global Radio colleague, Dan Walker, do the news at 5 o'clock last night on the TV, and I see a man, and they've got a heat expert, a heatologist, and they've got a doctor. And I think, where do I know that man from? And I realised, courtesy of Jordan on Capital Radio, he was the man who felt my testicles on Capital Radio a couple of months ago. So I suddenly see him on the TV. I definitely recognise that man, and he was the guy who did that. Part of their campaign up there to make sure. So for men, you must check that area. Ladies, be sure to check that area too. We're going to check into the continuing soaring temperatures as we could see more records tumble.
In the summertime, when the weather is high, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. When the weather's fine, you got women on your mind.
Is that really 1971? My goodness, Mungo Jerry. But do we need a temperature, a set universal temperature above which the workplace should empty? We'll come back to that conversation after this. 9:30, breakfast with me, Nick Ferrari on LBC. Let's get the headlines then from Dominic Ellis.
Forecasters believe the record UK temperature for June could again be beaten today. Gosport in Hampshire saw a high of 36.1 Celsius, passing a record set in 1976. In the last few minutes, South East Water has announced it's bringing in a hosepipe ban in response to high temperatures and record demand for water across Kent. It impacts around 80,000 customers in the area. At least 32 people have died and hundreds more injured after 2 strong earthquakes hit Venezuela's capital, Caracas, overnight. A state of emergency has been declared. And the Chancellor has confirmed that she's backing Andy Burnham to become the next Prime Minister. But Rachel Reeves has refused to comment on reports that he's planning to demote her if he enters Downing Street. LBC weather, sunny and hot from any outbreaks of rain in the far northwest, with the chance of thunderstorms by tonight, a high of 38 degrees.
This is LBC.